Welcome to this deep dive, and today we're diving into deep work.
Ooh, deep work.
You know, we're all just bombarded with distractions these days.
Yeah.
But this dive is all about rediscovering the power of focused concentration,
Really going deep.
that almost lost art of, getting in the zone and producing your best work.
I like it.
And we've got some fascinating research to dig through some intriguing stories,
Sounds good.
even a peek into an architect's mind.
Oh, wow.
So let's get started.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, it is fascinating how deep work is becoming this rare gem in our modern world.
Yeah.
We're constantly told to be connected to multitask.
Right.
Yet the real magic often happens when we disconnect and dive deep into a single task.
Okay, so before we go any further, how do we even define this deep work thing?
Well, Cal Newport, whose work we're exploring today,
Yeah.
he defines deep work as professional activities that require focused, distraction-free concentration,
Uh-huh.
pushing your cognitive abilities to their limit. Think of it as a mental weightlifting session for your brain.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So we're talking about mental heavy lifting,
Yeah.
but why is this so important, especially now?
Well, there are a couple of reasons why deep work is becoming more crucial than ever.
Okay.
Firstly, with intelligent machines and complex systems on the rise,
Mm-hmm.
the ability to master them is becoming a key differentiator for high-skilled workers.
Right.
Take Nate Silver, the election forecaster, for example.
Uh-huh.
His ability to manipulate vast data sets and run intricate simulations,
Yeah.
tasks requiring intense focus, is central to his success.
So it's not just about working hard.
Right.
It's about working deeply,
Ex-
developing those high-level cognitive skills that machines, at least for now, can't replicate.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the second reason deep work is so crucial is the emergence of what we might call superstars in a globalized marketplace.
Okay.
Now, individuals are competing with the very best in their fields worldwide.
Right.
Think of someone like David Heinemeier Hansson, the creator of Ruby on Rails.
Mm-hmm.
To produce work that stands out on a global stage, you need deep work.
Yeah.
Those stretches of uninterrupted concentration where you can really push your creative and intellectual boundaries.
Right. So deep work is not just about keeping up.
Right.
It's about excelling.
Yeah.
Producing work that truly stands out.
Exactly.
But if it's so crucial,
Yeah.
why are we all struggling with it?
It's a good question.
Why is it so rare?
It's not that deep work is inherently undesirable.
Okay.
It's more that it's become undervalued in our current work culture.
Okay.
In fact, several trends are actively working against deep work,
Uh-huh.
making it harder than ever to achieve.
What are some of those trends?
Oh, I bet some of them are lurking in our everyday work lives.
I think so.
We'll take open offices, for example.
Yeah.
They were intended to encourage collaboration,
Right.
but research shows they often lead to massive distraction.
Mm.
You might not even realize it.
Yeah.
But your brain is constantly reacting to all the stimuli around you, impacting your cognitive performance.
Yeah.
There's a great British TV special, The Secret Life of Office Buildings, that really highlights this issue.
So it's like we're trading off deep thinking for constant interaction.
Yeah.
We're always available,
Right.
but rarely truly focused.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the pressure of instant messaging.
Ugh, yes.
Always-on communication leads to constant interruptions, fragmenting our attention and delaying task completion.
Yeah.
Gloria Mark, a researcher who studies attention fragmentation, found that even brief interruptions can significantly slow us down.
It's almost like we've trained ourselves to be distracted,
Yeah.
rewarding those quick responses instead of those deep dives into complex problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't forget the pressure of social media.
Oh, yeah.
Content producers are expected to be constantly tweeting and updating,
Right.
even if it detracts from their core work.
Yeah.
The book actually mentions George Packer, a writer for The New Yorker.
Who deliberately avoided Twitter while writing his book, fearing it would derail his focus.
Interesting.
That book, by the way, went on to win a National Book Award.
Oh, wow.
So he actually prioritized deep work over being constantly connected.
Yeah, that's a pretty bold move in today's world.
It is.
But I wonder, why have we fallen into this trap of distraction?
Yeah.
It's almost like we're addicted to it.
It's a good question.
What's going on?
Well, one factor is what we might call the metric black hole.
Okay.
It's hard to quantify the cost of distraction and the value of deep work,
Yeah.
especially in knowledge-based jobs where the metrics aren't always clear.
Yeah.
It's easier to see the immediate benefit of responding to an email instantly
Right.
than it is to measure the long-term value of spending hours focused on a complex problem.
Right.
Tom Cochrane at Atlantic Media actually conducted a fascinating, albeit complex experiment to try and quantify the financial cost of email.
So we're stuck in a system that rewards busyness over focused productivity.
In a way, yes. It's the illusion of getting things done
Yeah.
versus actually producing valuable work.
Yeah, and there's this almost cult-like reverence for the internet.
Uh-huh.
This assumption that anything internet-related is inherently good,
Right.
leading to uncritical adoption of depth-destroying tools and suspicion towards those who resist them.
Yeah, that really resonates with me.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're afraid to disconnect,
Right,
even if we know it would be good for us.
exactly.
But I'm curious, is all this just about economic success?
Hmm.
Or is there a deeper connection between deep work and living a more meaningful life?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that the book delves into quite deeply.
Okay.
It explores the link between deep work and a good life from various perspectives.
Okay.
Neurological, psychological, even philosophical.
Okay, let's unpack those perspectives.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in understanding the connection between deep work and a fulfilling life.
Sure.
How does that all fit together?
Well, neurologically, our brains thrive on focus. We're actually wired to be more satisfied when we're deeply engaged in a single task,
Mm-hmm.
rather than constantly bombarded by stimuli.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Okay.
When you're constantly switching between tasks and checking your phone every few minutes,
Oh, yeah.
you're basically overloading your brain's circuits. It's no wonder we feel so scattered and stressed out.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's almost like our brains need that downtime, that focused attention
Yeah,
to recharge and function at their best.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the book shares a really compelling story about Winifred Gallagher,
Okay.
a science writer diagnosed with a very aggressive form of cancer.
Wow.
Faced with this incredibly difficult situation,
Yeah.
she made a conscious choice to focus on the positive aspects of her life.
Okay.
And she found that this shift in attention dramatically improved her quality of life, even during such a challenging time.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah,
It speaks to the idea that our attention is a powerful tool.
it is.
And if we can learn to direct it intentionally, we can actually change our experience of the world, even in the midst of adversity.
Absolutely.
But what about the psychological argument for deep work?
Yeah.
How does that fit into the picture?
Psychologically, deep work aligns with the concept of flow, a state of intense focus and absorption where you lose track of time and feel completely immersed in what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's that feeling of being in the zone where your skills are perfectly matched to the challenge at hand,
Right.
and you're completely engaged.
I definitely get that.
Yeah,
There's a certain satisfaction that comes from being completely absorbed in a task,
right.
losing yourself in the process of creating or solving a problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And research shows that people who regularly experience flow are significantly happier.
Really?
Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, a psychologist who studied flow extensively,
Okay.
even argued that jobs should be designed around flow activities.
Interesting.
Imagine a world where work was structured to be inherently engaging and fulfilling.
That would be amazing. It's almost like we've lost sight of the intrinsic satisfaction that can come from work, that feeling of accomplishment and mastery.
Right.
But I'm also curious about the philosophical argument for deep work.
Yeah.
What's the connection there?
Well, philosophically, deep work taps into the same source of meaning as traditional craftsmanship.
Okay.
The book tells the story of Rick Furr,
Okay.
a master bladesmith who finds deep meaning and satisfaction in mastering his craft.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about making knives,
Right.
it's about the pursuit of excellence,
Yeah.
the dedication to honing his skills and producing something truly exceptional.
So it's about approaching our work with the mindset of a craftsman,
Exactly.
striving for mastery and taking pride in our craft.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Dreyfus and Kelly, philosophers who've written extensively on the nature of skill and expertise, connect this sense of satisfaction to the pursuit of excellence in any field.
Right.
It's about pushing beyond mediocrity,
Yeah.
striving to become truly skilled at what you do.
So deep work isn't just about being more productive.
Right.
It's about living a more meaningful life,
Yeah.
finding satisfaction in the process of mastering our craft and contributing something valuable to the world.
Precisely.
It's about cultivating a mindset that values depth over distraction, mastery over mediocrity. It's about recognizing that our attention is a precious resource,
Absolutely.
and that by focusing it intentionally, we can achieve extraordinary things both in our work and in our lives.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself.
This is all so fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see deep work in a whole new light.
Good.
But there's a challenge here, right?
Yeah.
Our environments aren't exactly set up to support deep work.
Right.
So how do we actually integrate it into our lives?
It's a challenge.
Especially amidst all these demands on our attention.
It is.
How do we create a space for it?
Well, the book offers a great analogy.
Okay.
Carl Jung's Bullen and Tower.
Okay.
Jung, the renowned psychologist, built this retreat specifically for deep thinking. He recognized the need for a space dedicated to focus and concentration away from the distractions of everyday life.
So it's like we all need to build our own mental bowling towers.
Yeah.
Those spaces, physical or metaphorical,
Exactly.
where we can disconnect from the noise and dive deep into our work.
I like that.
But how do we actually do that?
It's the question, isn't it?
What are some practical strategies for creating those spaces and making deep work a reality?
Well, the book presents 4 different depth philosophies, essentially frameworks for how people successfully cultivate deep work in their lives. Each philosophy offers a different approach to structuring your time and attention to maximize your capacity for deep work.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued.
Yeah.
I think these depth philosophies will give us some concrete ideas for how to actually make deep work happen.
I think so.
I'm ready to hear more about them.
Okay, let's do it. So let's dive into these depth philosophies, starting with the most intense one, the monastic approach.
Monastic, like a monk.
Yeah, like a monk.
That sounds serious.
It is.
Okay.
Think of it as completely eliminating shallow work.
Wow.
And dedicating large chunks of time to uninterrupted depth.
Okay.
You're essentially becoming a monk of your craft,
Uh-huh.
shutting out the world to focus solely on your most important work.
So who's actually pulling this off?
You know?
I can barely resist checking my email for an hour.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, the book gives the example of Neil Stephenson, the science fiction author.
Okay.
He's notoriously difficult to reach electronically.
Really?
Why? Because he has a strict no communication policy.
Wow.
Knowing even small distractions can derail his deep work.
That's intense.
Yeah.
But I kind of admire his commitment.
Yeah.
So no emails, no calls,
Right.
just pure uninterrupted focus.
Exactly.
Is there anyone else taking this approach?
Another great example is Jason Ben.
Okay.
He quit his job in finance to learn coding.
Wow, big change.
Yeah, big change.
Yeah.
To really master the material, he locked himself in a room with no computer.
What?
Just textbooks and note cards.
Wow.
Forcing himself to focus deeply, and guess what? He ended up at the top of his class at a prestigious coding boot camp.
Wow. Talk about dedication.
Yeah.
So the monastic approach is all about eliminating distractions.
Right.
And dedicating large blocks of time to focus.
Exactly.
It's definitely not for everyone,
Yeah.
but it's clear that it can lead to some remarkable results.
Absolutely. It demonstrates the power of truly committing to deep work. But as you said, it's not always practical.
Right.
So let's move on to the bimodal approach.
Yep. Okay.
A bit more flexible, but still focused on extended periods of deep work.
Bimodal meaning 2 modes.
2 modes, yeah.
I'm guessing this one involves switching gears between deep work and, well, everything else.
Exactly. The idea is to alternate between long periods of deep work where you're completely unplugged
Yeah.
and periods where you're fully accessible and engaged in those shallow tasks we were talking about earlier.
Okay, that makes sense. So who's rocking the bimodal approach?
Well, Bill Gates, during his time at Microsoft,
Yeah.
was famous for his think weeks.
Think weeks?
Yeah, he would isolate himself for an entire week.
A whole week.
A whole week.
Okay.
Taking a stack of papers and books to a secluded cabin to read, think, and work on strategic problems without any distractions.
Wait, so no emails, no meetings?
Nope.
Just him and his thoughts for a whole week?
Exactly. And you know what it was during one of these think weeks that he wrote his famous Internet Tidal Wave memo,
Wow.
a document that completely changed Microsoft's direction.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
It really shows how stepping away from the day-to-day grind
Yeah.
can allow for breakthroughs in thinking and strategy.
Right.
So by disconnecting completely, he was actually able to see the bigger picture, the tidal wave that others were missing.
Precisely, the bimodal approach allows for these extended periods of deep thinking and strategizing that can lead to those aha moments and game-changing insights.
Okay, so Bill Gates went full hermit mode for a week.
He did.
Any other examples of this bimodal approach in action?
Another great example is Adam Grant,
Okay.
the Wharton professor and author we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
He structures his academic year around the bimodal approach.
Oh, wow. So this is like a real thing.
It is.
Okay.
He teaches all his classes in one semester,
Okay.
leaving the other semester entirely free for deep work.
So he's basically batching his teaching responsibilities
Right.
to free up large chunks of time for focused research and writing.
Exactly.
That's a clever way to create that separation
Yeah.
between deep work and the demands of teaching.
Yeah.
But does he stay completely disconnected during those deep work semesters?
He also incorporates the bimodal approach within those deep work semesters.
Oh, within the semesters. Okay.
So he'll schedule a few multi-day monastic sessions where he completely disconnects.
Okay.
And then the rest of the time, he's more accessible and engaged in shallower tasks.
Okay, so it's not just about carving out large blocks of time. It's also about being strategic with those blocks
Yeah.
and knowing when to be completely disconnected and when to be more accessible.
Exactly.
That seems a bit more manageable than a full week off the grid like Bill
Yeah,
Gates.
it can be.
Yeah.
The bimodal approach is all about finding that balance between deep work and the other demands of your life.
These first two philosophies are definitely inspiring.
Yeah.
But I can see how they might be a challenge for people with less control over their schedules.
Yeah, I can see that.
Are the other two approaches a bit more accessible?
They are. The next philosophy, the rhythmic approach, is all about integrating short bursts of deep work into your regular schedule on a daily basis.
Okay, this sounds a bit more my speed.
Yeah.
So instead of blocking off days or weeks,
Right.
it's about creating a daily routine
Exactly.
that includes dedicated time for deep work.
It's about making deep work a habit,
Okay.
a non-negotiable part of your day, even if it's just for an hour or two.
So who's using this rhythmic approach?
I'm curious to see how it works in practice.
Yeah, me too.
Well, Cal Newport himself, the author we've been discussing, uses this approach.
Oh,
He has a strict morning writing routine, getting up early and writing for a couple of hours before checking email or engaging in any other shallow tasks.
so he's front-loading his day with deep work,
Right.
getting it done before the distractions of the day take over.
Exactly.
That's a smart strategy. Any other examples of this rhythmic approach in action?
Absolutely. Think of Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian.
Okay.
He uses what he calls the chain method.
Good chain method.
Yeah.
Okay.
To stay motivated with his writing, he hangs a calendar on his wall and puts a big X on each day that he writes.
Okay, so it's a visual reminder of his commitment
Right.
to the daily practice of writing.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be motivating.
Exactly. The idea is to build a chain of X's, and then your only job is not to break the chain.
I love that.
It's simple but powerful.
It's about making it visual, making it a game, making it fun.
Right.
But I think this idea of not breaking the chain is key.
Yeah.
It's about building momentum
Mm-hmm.
and making deep work a non-negotiable part of your day.
Precisely. And the beauty of the rhythmic approach is that it's flexible.
Okay.
You can adjust the length of your deep work sessions and the time of day you schedule them
Yeah.
to fit your own needs and preferences.
So it's about finding a rhythm that works for you.
Yep.
And then sticking to it,
Yeah.
making deep work a regular part of your day.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But what about the last philosophy?
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how it compares to the others.
The final approach is the journalistic philosophy.
Okay.
It's all about fitting deep work bursts into your schedule whenever you have free time.
Okay, this sounds like it requires a certain level of flexibility and adaptability,
Yeah.
being able to switch into deep work mode on the fly.
Exactly. The book gives the example of Walter Isaacson,
Okay.
the biographer who wrote about Steve Jobs, Albert Einstein, and Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh, wow.
He's known for being able to shift into writing mode for short periods, even with his incredibly busy schedule.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah,
He's basically squeezing those deep work sessions into the cracks of his day.
he is.
So it's about being opportunistic with your deep work,
Yeah.
seizing those moments whenever they arise, even if it's just for 20 minutes or half an hour.
Precisely. The key is to be able to transition quickly into a deep work state and make progress even when you don't have large blocks of uninterrupted time.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It's about being prepared to dive deep whenever the chance arises, rather than waiting for the perfect conditions.
Exactly. And the beauty of all these depth philosophies is that there's no one right way to do deep work.
Right.
The key is to find the approach that best aligns with your personality, your work style, and your specific circumstances.
You know, that's so important.
It is.
We all have different lives,
Right.
different rhythms, different ways of working.
Exactly.
So instead of trying to force ourselves into a mold that doesn't fit, we could experiment with these philosophies
Exactly.
and find the one that allows us to thrive.
I like it.
But once we've found our ideal approach,
Okay.
how do we actually make deep work stick?
That's the question.
It's one thing to understand the concept,
Right.
But it's another thing to actually make it a habit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about moving beyond theory and into practice.
Okay.
One of the most effective ways to make deep work a habit is through the power of rituals.
Rituals like a pre-game routine for your brain.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so it's not just about finding the time for deep work.
Right.
It's about creating the right conditions for it to thrive.
Exactly.
But what do these rituals actually look like?
Well, the book shares Cal Newport's personal experience using the 4 Disciplines of Execution framework, or 4DX,
Okay.
to double his academic paper output in a year.
Double his output.
Yeah, doubled it.
That's incredible. Tell me more about this 40X framework.
It's all about setting clear goals, tracking your progress, and celebrating small wins. It's about creating a system that supports your deep work habits and keeps you motivated.
Okay.
Think of it as a way to gamify your deep work practice,
Yeah.
making it more engaging and rewarding.
Okay, so it's about taking a systematic approach to deep work
Right.
rather than just hoping it will happen.
Exactly.
It's about setting yourself up for success.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what about the role of downtime?
Yeah.
Does taking breaks actually help with deep work?
You might be surprised to hear this,
Okay.
but the book actually emphasizes the importance of downtime as a secret weapon for deep work.
Wait, so taking breaks actually makes you more productive?
It does.
I'm listening. There are 2 main reasons why.
Okay.
First, downtime allows your subconscious mind to work on complex problems,
Uh-huh.
often leading to those aha moments we were talking about earlier.
So stepping away from a problem can actually help you solve it.
It can.
It's like your brain needs that space to breathe, to process information, to come up with those creative solutions. Exactly. The book quotes writer Tim Kreider,
Okay.
who said, "Idleness is not just a vacation, an indulgence, or a vice. It is as indispensable to the brain as vitamin D is to the body."
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
It really highlights how we often undervalue rest and idleness,
You do.
seeing them as unproductive or even lazy.
Right.
But in reality, they're essential for our mental well-being
Yeah.
and our ability to do our best work.
Absolutely. And the second reason downtime is so crucial is that it helps recharge your mental energy.
Okay, so it's like a muscle.
Yeah,
You need to give it time to rest and recover after an intense workout.
exactly.
You can't just keep lifting heavier and heavier weights without taking breaks.
Precisely. And research by K. Anders Ericsson,
Okay.
who studied expert performance,
Yeah.
found that even the most skilled individuals rarely exceed 4 hours of deep work per day.
Wow. That's really eye-opening.
Yeah,
I think a lot of us try to push ourselves way beyond that
I think so too.
and then wonder why we feel so burnt out. But if we acknowledge that our capacity for deep work is limited,
Right.
we can be more intentional with our time and energy.
Exactly.
So how do we actually incorporate this downtime into our workday?
Yeah. Good question.
Any practical tips for making sure we're getting enough rest?
One of the most effective strategies the book recommends is having a shutdown ritual at the end of the day.
Okay, tell me more about this shutdown ritual.
Yeah,
I love the idea of having a routine to help me transition out of work mode.
yeah.
What does it involve?
The book suggests a simple process.
Okay.
Take a final look at your email inbox
Okay.
to make sure there's nothing urgent that needs your immediate attention.
Uh-huh.
Transfer any new tasks to your to-do list
Okay.
and make a rough plan for the next day.
So it's about tying up loose ends and preparing for the next day so you can fully detach from work when you leave the office.
Right.
It's about leaving work at work both physically and mentally.
Precisely. And there's another interesting concept called the Zeigarnik effect, which is the tendency to dwell on unfinished business.
Yeah.
The book explains how making concrete plans for incomplete tasks can help relieve this mental burden
Okay.
and allow you to truly relax during your downtime.
So instead of letting those unfinished tasks linger in my mind,
Right.
stressing me out even when I'm not working,
Exactly.
I could make a plan to address them later,
Right.
freeing up my mind to actually rest and recharge.
Exactly.
I like that. But what about training our minds for deep work?
Yeah,
Is it something we can actively improve?
that's a great question.
Oh, it's
The book emphasizes that deep work is like athletic training.
Okay.
You need to actively strengthen your ability to focus.
So we need to become concentration athletes.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Yeah,
It emphasizes the importance of training and practice.
it does.
But how do we actually train our minds for deep work?
Yeah.
What are some specific exercises or techniques we can use?
The book offers some fascinating methods. One is called Don't Work After 5.30.
Don't work after 5:30.
Yeah, it's as simple as it sounds. Set a fixed end time for your workday and stick to it no matter what.
So it's about creating that clear boundary between work and personal time, forcing yourself to be more efficient with your work hours. But isn't it unrealistic to just stop working at a certain time, especially when there's always more to do?
It might seem that way, but it can be incredibly powerful. This approach shifts you into a scarcity mindset where you're more selective about how you spend your time and energy during the day. You can't afford to waste time on low-value tasks when you know you have a hard stop at 5:30.
Right.
The book shares the example of Cal Newport himself, who has been using this strategy for years, and it's been a key factor in his success as both a writer and a professor.
That's encouraging. It shows that it's possible to be productive and successful while also setting boundaries and prioritizing your personal time.
Hmm.
But can anyone adopt this approach, or is it more suited for certain professions?
The book also highlights the example of Rathika Nagpal, a renowned computer scientist who has achieved remarkable success while adhering to a fixed schedule productivity approach.
Interesting.
So you see, it's not limited to writers or academics. The key is to find a schedule that works for you and your specific work demands.
Okay, that's reassuring. It's about finding that balance between deep work and life,
Yeah.
making sure one doesn't completely consume the other. But what about other methods for training our minds?
Another method is called meditate productively. It involves using time spent walking, driving, or doing other mindless activities to focus on a single professional problem.
So instead of letting my mind wander or listening to music, I can use that time to think deeply about a work challenge. Isn't that a bit distracting, especially while driving?
The key is to choose activities where your mind is already somewhat disengaged, like walking or showering. You're not trying to solve the problem then and there. You're using that time to let your subconscious mull it over to make connections and generate ideas.
So it's like planting a seed in your mind and letting it germinate while you go about your day. I can see how that could be a powerful way to integrate deep thinking into your daily routine.
Exactly, and the book offers some great tips for making the most of your productive meditation sessions. It suggests structuring your thinking by carefully reviewing the relevant variables, defining a specific next step question, and being aware of looping, where you get stuck in a cycle of unproductive thinking.
So it's about being intentional with your thinking, even when you're not formally working. It's about having a plan for your mental workout, just like you would for a physical workout. But what about those times when distractions are unavoidable, like when we're online? How do we tame the internet and prevent it from derailing our deep work efforts?
That's where the book's perspective on the internet comes in. It rejects the idea of the internet as inherently good or evil, instead framing it as a set of tools.
Which makes a lot of sense. It's not about demonizing technology, it's about using it intentionally and making sure it serves our goals, not the other way around.
Yeah.
But how do we do that? How do we become more discerning in our use of technology?
The book advocates for what it calls a craftsman approach to technology. It involves identifying your core goals and the activities that support them, and then evaluating each tool based on its impact on those key activities. You have to be ruthless in your assessment. Does this tool truly help me achieve my goals, or is it just a distraction?
So it's about being selective with the tools we use, making sure they're aligned with our values and our goals. It's about being intentional, not just blindly adopting every new gadget or platform that comes along.
Precisely. The book uses the example of a writer whose goal is to craft well-written, narrative-driven stories for that writer. Twitter is probably not going to be a helpful tool. In fact, it might even be harmful because it can lead to distraction and superficial thinking.
But for someone whose job is social media marketing, Twitter might be an essential tool. So it's not about the tool itself, it's about how it's being used and whether it aligns with your overall goals and values.
Exactly. The book even challenges us to consider the true return on investment for social media. Are these platforms truly driving meaningful results, or are they just providing a shallow feeling of busyness?
That's a great point. It's so easy to get caught up in the hype of social media and feel like we need to be constantly connected, but we need to step back and ask ourselves if it's truly serving our goals. And if it's not, maybe it's time to reevaluate our relationship with those platforms.
The book highlights the example of Malcolm Gladwell, Michael Lewis, and George Packer, all successful writers who deliberately avoid Twitter. They recognize that it's not essential to their craft and might even be detrimental to their ability to do deep work.
That's a powerful reminder that we don't have to buy into the hype of every new technology. We can choose to use the tools that serve us, and we can reject the ones that don't.
Yeah.
But how do we actually tame the internet? What are some practical strategies for using it more intentionally?
One strategy is to schedule your internet use. This involves planning when you'll be online and avoiding it completely outside those times.
So it's about creating boundaries and not letting the internet bleed into every aspect of our lives. It's about being in control of our technology usage, not letting it control us.
Exactly. Another strategy is to try a 30-day social media detox, completely disconnect from those platforms, and see how you feel if you don't genuinely miss them after 30 days. Consider quitting permanently.
That's a great idea. It's like a cleanse for your mind, a chance to step back and assess how social media is actually impacting your life.
Yeah.
And if you find you do miss it, you can always go back. But the experiment will give you valuable insights into your relationship with those platforms.
And finally, the book suggests finding better entertainment. The idea is that if you're engaging your mind in worthwhile activities during your downtime, you won't crave the shallow dopamine hits of BuzzFeed and clickbait.
So it's about upgrading our leisure time. It's about feeding our minds with something nourishing and enriching, not just empty calories.
Precisely, the book quotes Arnold Bennett, an English writer, who argued that we should treat our free time with the same respect we give to our work time. He believed leisure time should be used for self-improvement and intellectual pursuits, not just mindless entertainment.
That's a great perspective. It's about being mindful of how we're spending our time, even when we're not working. It's about making sure our leisure activities are truly restorative and contribute to our overall well-being.
And to bring it all back to the author, Cal Newport shares his own personal journey with deep work in the book. He talks about how he worried about maintaining his deep work habits as he transitioned from student to professor with all the increased demands on his time and attention.
That's relatable as our responsibilities grow. It's easy to let deep work slip away. But he found a way to make it work, right?
He did. He deliberately trained his deep work capacity using the principles he outlines in the book, and he was incredibly successful. He was able to maintain his high level of productivity even as his responsibilities increased.
That's inspiring. It shows that these principles are not just theoretical. They can be applied in the real world, even in demanding circumstances.
Exactly. And the takeaway message is that if he can do it, we can too. We all have the power to cultivate deep work habits and create a more focused and fulfilling life.
This has been such an insightful deep dive into the world of deep work. It feels like we've uncovered a treasure trove of strategies and insights for reclaiming our attention and doing our best work.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought. Think back to that feeling of truly losing yourself in an activity, that state of flow where time seems to disappear.
Hmm?
How long has it been since you experienced that? And what one small change could you make this week to bring more depth into your work and your life? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another exploration of fascinating ideas.